Hello, Mike Pennacchi with Network Protocol Specialists, LLC. And in this quick start, we're going to go through the AirCheck G2. So we're going to take a look at physically what connections does it have on it. Then we're going to move into what does it show us. And then we're going to jump into AirMapper and look at how we can use the AirCheck G2 to go out, map out our network. So let's start out by coming over here and taking a look at the AirCheck G2. So here we have the device. We've got our touch screen, we've got our power button, we've got our power connection. We've got an Ethernet port here on the side. Now typically what we're going to use that Ethernet port right there for is validating this Ethernet connection right here. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. Well, we've got that up here on the screen. So if we zoom in just a little bit, what we see is down here at the bottom, there's an Ethernet test. So I can tap on that Ethernet test, and what this is going to do is it's going to come in and it's going to show me some information about that Ethernet connection. Tells me I've got PoE. Tells us that it's connected at gig full. Tells me information about the switch and the port that I'm connected to. I can see I got a DHCP address, my default gateway, my network, and it's uploaded those results to Link Live. So that Ethernet port, whoops, get my hand out of there, is a great way to go in and validate that that connection's working before we do something like plug a wireless access point in. Now, what I'm going to do, so we'll zoom out a little bit, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to my settings. And I'm going to slide down here to device settings. And one of the settings that we have on the AirCheck G2 is remote user interface. So I'm going to select remote user interface right there. And it will tell me that it is going to put it in remote user interface mode. And I'll go ahead and hit apply. Now, it will pop up and give me an IP address on the screen. So it says 10.0.11.121. So that is the IP address where I can access it. So what I've done is I've got VNC running on my machine. So I'm going to come out to VNC and I'm going to put in 10.0.11.121. And I'm going to connect to the AirCheck G2 using VNC. So I'll share my screen. And we see that there is our AirCheck G2. So this makes it a little bit easier for me to show you this on the screen. Plus, here's a really neat feature. Let's say that you have somebody out at a remote location and you want to do some wireless analysis. What you could do is you could have the person at the remote location plug the AirCheck G2 into an Ethernet connection. Then you could have them go to settings, device settings, remote user interface, hit apply, and then say, give me the IP address that's on the screen. They could give you the IP address, and now you could remote into that AirCheck G2 out at that remote site. So now what's happening is it's showing us what's happening with our wireless network. Let's go through this screen real quick. Up here at the top, we see default. There's a little asterisk next to it. That's our profile. We can create multiple profiles on the AirCheck G2. And these profiles contain all of our settings. So this is really nice if you're moving from one environment to another to be able to quickly go in and recall those settings. Now that asterisk tells us that we've made changes to this profile. We see this old dot flashing every once in a while. That's our transmit indicator. So what this is telling us is periodically we're transmitting frames, and these frames are probe packets, and we see that those are going out. Here we're scanning through our channels, and we can set how long we spend sitting on each channel. So keep in mind, we have to change channels to see what's out there. So the longer we spend on each channel, the longer it takes us to get through all of our channels. However, the less time we spend on each channel, the faster we can get through all the channels to find out what's out there. kind of a balance in there. Got our battery indicator, we're plugged into power. We're on our home screen. I'll tell you, this is such a powerful button right here. This is our help screen. The help on here is astounding. And so if you ever wonder, what's something tell me on here, you can go in and tap on help and load and open that help screen. We've got our refresh. We've got our save. This is where we can save the information for this session. Now I can save this to either Link Live. If I've gone into Link Live, set up an account, and claimed this unit to Link Live, I can upload it to Link Live. Or I can save it locally and I can bring it into, I can offload it to a USB drive and bring that into my PC that way. We can come in here. We've got our job comment. Job comments are added to every test result. So for instance, I could come in for this job comment and put in, I'm going to put in a /. This is going to create a folder in Link Live. And we're going to call this May 2021 QS. So what we're going to do is we're going to save all of the test results today into a folder called May 2021 QS. This is a great way to organize our test results. That's going to bug me, so I got to fix that right there. There we go. All right, so I'll say done. So that comment gets added to every one. Now I could add a session comment, and this could be a unique comment like studio. So I'm out here in the video studio. So I could add studio. I'll say done. And now I could hit save. And so what it's going to do is it's going to upload that to Link Live. Now at the end of this session, we'll go out and we'll take a look at what got uploaded to Link Live. So in this case, let's start with networks. If I tap on networks, it is going to show me what networks, what Wi-Fi networks it has discovered. We see PR Home, netgear 77, PR Guest, PR Home 5G, netgear 77, NPS 1. NPS 1, that's kind of an interesting one there. Kind of curious on that one. So I could see what APs I see out there. Oh, I use Vizio TVs as a monitor. So like right now during this webcast, I'm looking at the AirCheck G2 on one of these Vizio TVs. Well, that is got a Wi-Fi access point built into it. And we can see that it is unsecure and it's out there beaconing. So we're going to come back. We can see what the signal strength is of the strongest AP. So if we have multiple APs, this will show us the signal strength of the strongest AP. We see that that network is secured. We see that we see 3 APs, and it shows us our signal to noise ratio of the strongest AP. So let's go ahead and we're going to take PR Home 5G as an example. We're going to drill into that. So now, anytime we see a little triangle in the upper corner, that tells us that we can drill into that field. So here we see we have 3 APs that are supporting this SSID. Shows us the signal level, the strongest AP, the noise level, the signal to noise ratio. This is our difference between our signal and our noise. The higher the signal to noise ratio, the easier it is for us to understand what that AP is saying, because we have a big gap between our signal level and our noise level. It shows us the security that's been implemented, the 802.11 types that are supported, the number of clients attached to that network, which band it's operating, the channels. Now we have multiple APs, so in this case they're operating on 2 different channels. So let's go ahead and drill into APs. Here I can see I've got this netgear and I've got a couple of router boards that are supporting that. The netgear is just barely readable, right? We don't even see a signal strength on there. But here I see these 2 router boards. These are MikroTik routers I'm using. So now I can further drill into that AP. And this gives me detailed information about that specific AP for this SSID. Now, there are a couple of ways that we can connect our AirCheck G2 to our Wi-Fi network. One is that I come in, let me back out, that I come in here and I connect to this SSID. Now what it's going to do is it's going to say, here's the SSID. Are we using a captive portal? The AirCheck G2 has a pretty basic web browser built into it. And if you're using a network where you have to say, yes, I agree to connect to that network, then we can enable the captive portal so that that will pop up when we connect. We can say, yes, I agree. We can put in our authentication, our encryption, our password. Now I'm going to pause my share for just a second. Let me just make sure I've got that password in there correctly. I'll resume that share. So I typed in my password and I'll say done. Now I'll hit apply. So the AirCheck G2 is going out and it is finding the AP with the strongest signal strength and it is connecting to that AP. So we can see that we've established our connection. We've got an IP address, DHCP server, default gateway, DNS. We got our target. We have now uploaded this information to Link Live. Now, there's a variety of tests we can run. I can come out here and I can tap on log. And this shows a log of that connection. So I can see exactly the steps that the AirCheck G2 went through to connect to this network. I had a client, I went out there and people were having trouble connecting to the guest network. They would see the guest network being advertised, but they couldn't connect. So what we found is that the AirCheck G2 was connecting, but as soon as it got connected, the AP sent a deauthentication. Now, we could get really suspicious and think, well, maybe somebody's mounting a deauth attack on us. As it turned out, it was a lot simpler than that. There was a problem with the firmware on the APs, and the APs hadn't been updated. And that problem was causing them to send out these deauthentication frames. So as soon as we upgraded the firmware, we were able to connect. But the interesting thing is when we called the AP manufacturer, they said, there's nothing wrong. It's you. It's your network. But as soon as we said, we can see in our log that as soon as we connect, that deauthenticates us. Oh, you need to upgrade. So it's always funny when you have exactly the right answers or questions, they all of a sudden have an answer for you. So here's our detailed test log as far as that connection that we've got in there. Now, we can save this. We can add a comment. So I could come in here and say for my test comment, I could say, I'll put in studio. So this is a good one to put in the location where this test was run. Where did I connect to this AP? I'll hit apply, and it's going to upload that to Link Live. Now, as far as tests go, we can come in and we can do an iPerf test, or we can do a roaming test. Now, if I do an iPerf test, this one doesn't work really well when I'm remoted in through the Ethernet port, because a lot of times it runs through the Ethernet port. But what this allows me to do is go in and select an iPerf server. Now, this iPerf server can be a test accessory, which is this device right there behind me, or it could be any machine running iPerf. And this allows us to do a throughput test through our wireless network out to that device to see what our performance looks like. The roaming test is where we can select a device on our network, such as the default gateway, and I hit apply. And now I can start walking around the facility. And what will happen is it will show me what that signal quality is. And as we get further and further away from the AP that we're connected to, our signal quality will go down. Eventually, we'll see a red line where we roam to the next AP. So this is a great test for going through and finding where we can, how is our roaming working? Are we able to successfully roam from one AP to the next? So I'll go back. Okay, so those are some of the tests we can run in there. Now, let me show you something just a little bit different. In this case, we connected to the strongest AP. But let's say I want to make sure that all of my APs are working properly. So in the previous test, I connected to 2602. I want to force this to connect to 259C. So if I select that AP, I can select connect. Now in this case, it is connecting to that BSSID. So instead of selecting the strongest one, here it's connecting to that one. And we've run into cases where APs have been misconfigured. And once we've narrowed it down to we think it's this one, you can go in and select that BSS ID and connect to that AP. This is a great way to validate each one of the APs is working. And we could even put something to that effect in the comments. Now, the quickest way to get to the home screen? Tap on that home button right there. Now, we could go in and take a look at our channels. And what this is going to do is it's going to show us the number of APs that we see on each one of our channels. And we can see what our signal strength looks like, we can see our utilization. Now, we see some gray bars in there, which are our non-802.11 utilization. This is caused by the fact that we use more than just the center channel. So these APs that are on channel 6 actually use channels 4 and 5 and 7 and 8. Now, if I want to get a good picture of my overlap, I can tap on overlap. Now, this works better on the AirCheck G2 itself because we can turn it on its side. But in this case, we can see each of our APs and we can see if we have any overlap. This helps us identify if we have issues with adjacent channel overlap. This is where we could have somebody that maybe is on channel 2 or channel 3. Becomes very apparent right here. We can come in and look at our 5 gig lower, 5 gig upper. And so right there we have somebody that's running an 80 megahertz wide channel that's stepping all over the top of this router board right there. So I might want to go in and see what device that is. And I could come in here and we could see what that is and dig around in there and start troubleshooting that. Now, if I select a channel, like channel 6 right here, it's going to drill me into that channel. And now I can start watching that utilization. I could go into channel details. And for this channel, it's going to show me how many clients I have on this channel, how many APs I have on the channel, number of interferers. So if I tap on interferers right here, I see I've got some Bluetooth devices out there. Probably one of them's the mouse I'm using right here. We'll go back. Here's my APs. And let's say that we wanted to figure out what was this device right here. So I can select that device and it's going to show me some information. It's taken me into the AP screen. There's multiple ways to get to the same spot. But you'll notice we have a locate right down here. And this is where we can turn on our locate and use this to locate Wi-Fi devices. Now, I'll grab one of the directional antennas out of my Wi-Fi drawer. This is the directional antenna that we use with the AirCheck G2. That directional antenna connects to the side of the AirCheck G2 right here. So we've got a couple of USB ports right there. We can connect that directional antenna right to the side right there and use that as a way to help us locate where Wi-Fi devices are out there on the network. And what you'll see is that our signal strength will change as we move closer to that. We can turn the sound off if we want. And we can turn off and on the external antenna. We don't transmit with that external antenna, we only receive with that external antenna. So our channel information gives us some detailed information about that. One thing I wanted to show you about networks, we're just going to jump back to that real quick, and that is that up here at the top we have a sort and we have a filter. If I go into sort, I can select the sort. So I could say sort by security. I want to see if I have any open networks out there. So I'll go to security and I'll hit apply. And so now it's going to sort by security. So I could use this as a quick way to find open networks. Now right now we see signal strength, security, number of APs, and SNR. Well, if I go into sort and I sort on something like client count and I hit apply, now it changes that to client count. So the sort is a great way to bring some of the values up to the main screen here and then be able to sort on those. Also, I can apply a filter in here. So if I say filter, one filter I really like is minimum signal strength. This gives me a way to eliminate those networks that aren't directly near me, and I can focus in on my network. So I can say, don't show me anything where the signal strength is less than negative 67 decibel meters. Hit OK. So now that's only showing me 7 of the 8 networks I've discovered. And I could be even more specific than that. But there's 7 of 10. I'm not close to a lot of other networks. If you're in a metropolitan area, you could see hundreds of other networks. So this filter is a great way to zoom down on just those networks you care about. I can unload the filter by clicking on that. Clients. We've taken a look at some of the clients. Here it shows us our clients and it shows us which AP they're associated with and what channel they're on. So we can use this as a way to quickly go in and filter. We can filter on MAC address, AP name, SSID, channel, etc. So we can use this to find clients. I could choose that device right there. Shows me what speed it's connected at, tells me which AP it's connected to, which network it is on. Interferers. This is going out and listening for non-802.11 devices. So here we see that we've got some Bluetooth devices. Other devices this will detect are Wi-Fi cameras and microwave ovens. I was at a client site where we were doing some analysis. They were having poor Wi-Fi performance. We fired this up. We were watching for a while, saw a microwave oven kick on. I said, is there a microwave oven anywhere around here? And they said, yeah, there's a little break area right behind that plywood partition. I said, you might want to think about either moving your APs to 5 gigahertz or getting that microwave out of here. That thing's going to affect our 2.4 gigahertz performance. Now, let's jump into AirMapper before we get into doing AutoTest. As I know for a lot of folks, AirMapper is of great interest. So with AirMapper, if we come in here the first time, it's going to want us to load a floor plan. We're going to come over here and we are going to start by selecting a floor plan. Now this floor plan could be oftentimes you're going to see the example I use. It is a picture of a fire escape plan for a building. Most commercial buildings have a floor plan for fire escape. I just take a picture of that and use that. So what I'll do is I might grab a picture with my phone and we can transfer floor plans over to this using a USB drive, or we can do it through Link Live. In this case, we're going to set this up on the AirCheck G2 itself. So if I put a JPEG or PNG image on a USB drive, I can take and connect that USB drive to one of the 2 USB ports here on the side of the AirCheck G2. I could then go in and I could tap on Add Floor Plan. Now, it doesn't find a USB drive right now. You need to make sure that if you put it on the USB drive, that you put it in the root of the USB drive. This doesn't have a file manager, so it needs to be in the root of the USB drive. So in this case, let's go ahead and we're going to choose the Westford Inn, and I'm going to hit edit. And right here, it says there's the name and there's the dimensions. So I can come into dimensions, and I can use this as a way to calibrate this floor plan. I need to make sure the floor plan is an accurate representation of the building. So here, I can drag these two little points right here. I can put one on that side of the hallway, and I can put the other one on the other side of the hallway. And that thinks that that hallway is 8 feet wide. Now, what I prefer to do is I like to measure longer distances if possible. I usually carry a little laser measure with me. But in this case, for ease, we're going to say, let's say that hallway was 9 feet wide. So I put in 9. So now it will recalibrate this floor plan, assuming that is 9 feet wide. So I can go back. So it shows what the dimensions of that floor plan are. I'll hit apply. So I've selected my floor plan. I'll go back. Next, I set my signal propagation. Now with my signal propagation, this is, if I'm standing here, I assume that the signal is the same strength 10 feet to my left, 10 feet to my right. In fact, I assume a circle around me with a radius of 10 feet. So this signal propagation is going to change depending on the environment where I'm doing my survey. If I'm in a hotel or a walled office space, 10 feet's a good number. I also have done this where we did some testing out on a flight line at an airport, and we assumed a distance of 150, 200 feet because we're out in open air. So if you have a lot of RF obstructions, you're going to want a smaller signal propagation. If you have fewer RF obstructions, you can have a larger signal propagation. The smaller the signal propagation, the more measurements we need to take. Next, we select our survey type, passive or active. Passive, we listen to everything out there and we collect that information to put that on our heat map. Active, we connect to a wireless network. And we will go in and run tests where we're connected to that. We'll show what our connection speed is. We'll show where we roamed. We'll collect that information. So we're going to start out doing a passive. And now you can go out and take a look for YouTube videos. I just did one on doing an active survey on the NetAlly site. So be sure to check for those videos if you'd like. And we go into great detail on how to get everything set up to do those tests. So I'm going to hit apply. So now I'm ready to start testing. Now this is where operating it remotely gets a little squirrely, and that is, we're going to come out, I'm going to go to, we're going to switch back to this. To zoom out, we have to use the touch screen. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to use the touch screen. Now the tricky part is using it remotely. We can't see the touch screen on the screen at the same time remote controlling. That's okay. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to hit start. And I'm going to say that I'm going to start my test right up here at this end of the hallway. So I'm going to tap the screen. And what it did was it took a snapshot of all of the networks that were seen at that moment in time. And that circle represents a radius equal to the signal propagation distance. So there's 10 feet. So what I do is I walk up here to the edge of that circle and I tap again. I walk up to the edge of the circle, tap again. Now I'm not physically moving. My AirCheck G2 is sitting right here next to me. But I walk up, I tap that edge, I tap that edge. So I'm just walking down the hallway, taking my measurements. And I'm ensuring I've got good coverage by always walking to the edge of the circle and taking a measurement. So we're just going to walk down the hallway here. And this is going to be a very uneventful heat map because we are not moving. Now, notice our signal propagation does not extend into the hotel rooms. if I was managing the Wi-Fi network in this hotel and I wanted to make sure that each one of those hotel rooms had the coverage necessary, I would come in here to room 279, which interestingly enough was the room I was staying in on this visit out to Massachusetts. I would come in here and I would go into the room and I would take a couple of measurements in the room. Then I would leave the room. I would come over here and actually, the best practice, I would tap when I got out in the hallway. I'd come down here, tap in the hallway. I always like to tap on the screen every time I change direction, and I could take the measurements in there. So this would allow me to get a heat map that shows not only what the coverage in the hallway is, which not a lot of people use Wi-Fi in the hallway, but the coverage in the rooms as well. Once I'm complete with doing my heat map, I hit stop and I can hit save. Now we have two options when we hit save right here. We can save to either link live, or we can export this out to a Air Magnet Spectrum X or Survey Pro file. Okay, Air Magnet Survey Pro. So if you have Air Magnet Survey Pro version 10 or above, you can import the file into Air Magnet, so you don't ever have to touch the cloud. We can save this out to a USB drive, or I can upload it to Link Live. Now, if you upload it to Link Live, you can still export it to Air Magnet Survey Pro. So I'm going to hit save. Now, as soon as the AirCheck G2 establishes a connection with the network, this is either by running an AutoTest or connecting the Ethernet port, this survey will be uploaded to Link Live. I'm connected via the Ethernet port right now, so it uploads that to Link Live. So we have now done our wireless survey. Now, if we wanted to do an active survey, what I could do is I could come in and say clear. I could hit start my settings. I could say I'm going to do an active survey instead. I'll hit apply. Now, we'll zoom out, come back out there to the top. When I hit start, it says, what network do we want to survey? We're going to survey PR Home 5G. So it is going to connect to that network. So prior to beginning our survey, it will connect to the network and it will maintain this connection. Now, if it loses connection, we're going to see gray circles out there on our map. So we're going to see that we lost connectivity out there. So now that we're connected, we're ready to go. So I'm going to hit start. Oh, sorry, lost connection. Let's see. We'll connect again. I should have clicked on the little marker button down at the bottom. So we're going to connect. We're going to tap on the marker right there. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to tap that. And what it's doing is it's collecting that information. You notice we're not scanning anymore. Now we're on channel 149 because we're connected to that AP. So I can come in, I can take my next measurement. Now, one of the questions that's come up is, hey, what about if somebody wants to, if we want to document where APs are? One of the things that we can do is tap and hold on the screen. And now what I can do is I can add a comment. I can say AP15. So what it's going to do is it has now added a comment right there. I could take my measurement, But now we see that little blue box. That comment will get uploaded to Link Live. So now we have collected that information. We can say that is where this AP was. So we can specify certain information in there. We can say, hey, I saw this, or anything we want, we can add comments in there. I can also tap and hold, and I can say delete. and I could delete that measurement. So if for some reason I took a bad measurement and I wanted to go back, remeasure, I can click and hold and delete that. So we'll stop. We will save this, and we'll upload that to Link Live as well. All right, so let's come out to our home screen. The other big one that we have in here is AutoTest. So with AutoTest, let's stop AutoTest. Let's go in. We're going to go into our settings. We're going to go into our AutoTest settings. And here is where we can say how many times do we want to scan through our channels to take a look at what the health of the network is. Then we can say, do we want to turn on our network tests? If I have network tests turned on, what this will do is it will say, I want the AirCheck G2 to connect to these networks and make sure that we can connect. This is a great tool that if you have conference rooms, if you have other areas where you want to make sure that you have connectivity, we can set up this auto test. We'll hit apply. We'll come out to the home screen and I'll hit auto test. Say okay. So it's going to go through and take a look at our air quality. So it's looking for things like utilization, non-Wi-Fi utilization, co-channel interference, adjacent channel interference. Do we have too many APs on a channel? Do we have APs that are sitting on a channel that could be impacting our communication? This is all based on the thresholds that we set. So here we see that we've exceeded that on channel 6 because we have 4 APs. These are all based on our thresholds that we set in settings. So now we can come in, we see that we have connected to Netgear 77 5G. We successfully connected to that network. We're connecting to PR guest. Now what's wrong with network quality here? Well, right now network coverage is good, but we have too many APs on that same channel. So we might want to look at, and that threshold set pretty low for this demo, but in this case we may want to take a look at what's going on there. After we run that test and upload those test results to Link Live, we now come in and test PR Home 5G. So we are testing for things like, do we have coverage by at least 2 APs? Our co-channel interference and our security. So with the push of one button, I'm able to go in and check all 3 of these networks to make sure I can connect and that they're operating the way that I'd like them to. This information is automatically uploaded to Link Live. So I can come out, I can do that. Other things that are very handy in here, clients, I could say, you know what, this Vizio right here, I want to see what's going on with that device. So I could come in and tap on capture. This will set up a packet capture. This will capture all the Wi-Fi traffic to and from that MAC address right there. It's going to capture on channel 36. It's going to look for this MAC address. It's going to capture control frames, data frames, management frames. I can hit start. It'll start showing me how many frames are being captured. Then when I stop, and I chose a device that doesn't have a lot of traffic. So let's go back. Let's choose an access point, and let's remove our filter. Let's choose this AP right here. So if I come in and do a capture, I hit start, we should see a fair amount of traffic for this AP. So now we're seeing those frames rack up. Shows us how much we've captured of our file size limit. I'm going to hit stop. I'm going to go to manage files. I'm going to take that capture that I just did, and I am going to upload that to Link Live. So you can see where if you have somebody out at a remote location and you want them to do a quick packet capture and see what's going on, we can come in here, we can select the device we're interested in, do the capture, and upload that to Link Live. Now, let me bring up my web browser. And we are going to go into Link Live. So we will change our share. So here I have Link Live. So if we go into our test results right here, we can see our test results. Now, if you notice that right here, we've got this little link between our test results here, air quality, PR Home 5G, PR Guest, Netgear 77 5G. What this is doing is it's showing us that that's all part of the same AutoTest. And this was all saved in this folder right here because we put that in as our job comment. So this gives us that information about that AutoTest. So we have that documented. If I wanted to zoom into that folder, I could tap on that folder, and now it's going to show me just the test results for that folder. So let's go ahead and jump over here to AirMapper. So here is where we did our AirMapper, and we did both a passive and an active site survey. So in this case, let's go into our passive. Tells us right here our survey was passive, tells us the number of points that we measured. If we slide over here, we can export those results to Survey Pro. This will create the AMP file we can import into Survey Pro 10.0 or above. We can view the analysis. When we saved the heat map, it saved all of the Wi-Fi information it discovered, the channel information, the network information, the AP information, the client information. All of that was saved at the same time. But you want to see the survey. So we're going to come over here, we're going to tap on survey, and now it shows our survey data points. So we can zoom in, we can see here's where we took our measurements. I can tap on that point right there. If I zoom out, it shows me information about each of the APs that were discovered at that point because we're doing a passive survey. And I can see the number of interferers, I can see adjacent, I can see all the information about the stations, the max transmit rates, I can see the security, all that shown for that particular data point. Up here, I can start setting filters. I could say, you know what? I want to see just the information for Netgear 77 5G. So I could uncheck that, check that, and I can hit apply. And now it just shows me that one network. So I can start seeing what the coverage looks like for that particular network. We can scale our diagram up and down. So we can zoom in, we can zoom out, we can rotate it to make it easier to view. We're going to clear our filter right there. I can see things like show me max transmit rates. And over here on the side, we can change our limit. So we can say only show me where we have a max transmit rate of 204. So we could start taking a look at what our transmit rates look like. Okay. We could also go, let's go back and take a look at our active survey. So I'll go back to AirMapper. We'll go to the active survey. We'll bring that up. Now in this case, there is that comment, AP15. I can click on this point right here. Now notice we don't see a whole bunch of APs right here. We see our router, we see what channel, our signal, our SNR, we see our data rate right there. So with our active, we are connecting to that network, and we're looking at that information for that specific network. So this is a quick start on the AirCheck G2. This is some things to get you up and running with it. It's not intended to be an in-depth class on that. Be sure to check YouTube for some other training videos on the AirCheck G2. I'm going to go ahead and get ready for our next quick start that's coming up in about 15 minutes. That's on the Etherscope NXG. If you'd like to join me, you can go out to www.nps-llc.com/quick-starts and sign up for that one. All right, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you in a future session.